Hello friends, welcome to episode 7 of my Pessimistic Guide to Anti-Aging Research. Before I start talking about biology of aging and anti-aging approaches, I want to flirt with some sort of analysis of possible scenarios for future where we already discovered an elixir of youth. Since the beginning of the 20th century, our lifespan increased from 40-something to 80. Have we acknowledged it on an emotional level as a precious gift? Nope. Do we appreciate it? Theoretically, yes. Practically, no. We treat it as a matter of course, and our bitterness and yearning for longer life only increased. So how can something like extreme longevity be truly appreciated? Realistically, only in comparison with others who do not have it. This is not true for everything. Of course, we enjoy a sunrise, a good book, a cup of coffee or a glass of cognac, or simply another day, in a way that does not require any comparisons. On the other hand, for a human being to look younger or to live longer implies some point of reference or a standard that has been exceeded in real time. We do not compare ourselves to dogs, elephants, or trees, but to our neighbors. And as soon as something is available to everybody in equal measure, it is no longer a keenly enjoyed privilege, and it fades into the background of routine. And when it does, if we know anything about human nature, all previous references are forgotten, and the extended lifespan simply becomes a new and unacceptable low. Throughout our history, a connotation for the idea of finding the elixir of youth was fundamentally different from finding a cure for disease. Curing disease by default belongs to the public domain, whereas finding cure for finite lifespan has always been a more of a secretive activity, fruits of which were intended only for the happy few. Due to the explosive nature of such an advantage, truly meaningful developments in the field of applied gerontology will be utilized rather selectively and, I'm afraid, without public knowledge. So we're looking at an unprecedented source of bitter and potentially catastrophic social polarization. We're used to all kinds of subdivisions, rich versus poor, educated versus uneducated, white collar, blue collar, but there is nothing that can be even remotely compared. On the other hand, it will be in a sense a good time for long-lived men, because they will have all those unfortunate short-lived wretches to compare themselves to, and hence the opportunity to acutely appreciate the gift all the time. Perhaps the permanent coexistence of long and short-lived people is in order as an essential condition for permanent appreciation and permanent murderous rage on the other side of the fence. Or maybe it is better for immortals, if they come to be, to remain invisible. We're not there yet, I don't think. I believe I'm sufficiently familiar with this field to feel reasonably sure that we're still in the age of intentions, ideas, and promises, but not working solutions. As Dumas noted in one of his novels, there is a great distance between intention and action. A great deal of anti-aging drive is rooted in a visceral fear of dying. With various degrees of finesse and philosophical insight, similar thoughts have been expressed by just about everybody, from Gilgamesh to the Bible to the next guy. It should be noted, though, that as individuals, we're utterly alone in our conviction that we are unique and special, and therefore deserve eternal life. If we set aside our high opinion of ourselves, difficult, but just for a moment, we will be forced to acknowledge that we are rather average. Most of us are very ordinary people with no discernible talents. Our contribution to culture and civilization is mostly in the sheer mass of warm bodies that drive progress by generating demand, causing shortages, and precipitating crisis. Even those few who know us, except our mothers, of course, will most likely find our claim to immortality ridiculous. I like a statement penned by Reverend Ripley in 1962 because it is kind of poetic. Although it is about immortality of the soul, rationale is about the same. Also, it is a good example of justification beyond mortal fear, although it's still probably all there is to it.
If death completely destroys the human personality, the universe is monstrously irrational. Think of it, every generation of incomplete, aspiring individuals simply wiped off the earth, never to exist again, in the same way as a child sweeps unfinished problems from his slate. Is such a thing possible? Is it possible that nothing is ever finished anywhere? Surely such a theory is blasphemous. It reduces God to the status of a half-witted artist who amuses himself with tasks that have no meaning, paints pictures in which the form of beauty is barely outlined, only to blot them out and begin all over again. Was there ever so complete a reductio ad absurdum? The cry of man for a life beyond the grave comes from that which is noblest in his soul.
Great words, but I would probably argue against the use of the word noblest. As I already mentioned, we are not unique in our desire to live longer. Throughout the history, those who attained ultimate power occasionally tried to convert their considerable resources into a personal gain of immortality. In the 3rd century BC, for example, the first emperor of United China, I'm afraid to pronounce his name, sent an expedition in search of the elixir of life. According to the legend, the members of this expedition never came back and instead opted to populate Japan. This sounds psychologically credible because why would they want to deliver bad news and face the wrath of the emperor? He died at the age of 50, it is said, from the mercury poisoning, which was a component of medicine designed to make him immortal. Some modern-day rulers, too, given to fear by lavishly financing anti-aging research in the twilight of their lives. The freshest example is a former president of Kazakhstan, Nursultan Nazarbayev, who tried to make life extension research a priority of national science. Similarly, the companies engaged in research on aging and anti-aging are currently getting hundreds of millions of dollars. And I don't believe that the people behind these investments are purely altruistic. At the very least, they expect to be among the first beneficiaries of future developments, which is natural, of course. However, as far as already born are concerned, and in contrast to manipulations targeting germ cells, I can see only one possible approach that may result in quasi-perpetual continuation of an individual. It is only partially lies within the realm of traditional biology, and, if at all possible, its development will require many millions, several years, and radical changes in our ethical standards. Most existing approaches appear to contain hidden biological flaws, which may not be easy to overcome. Okay, I'm done. I got it out of my system and I feel better. In my next episode, I will get down to business and attempt to explain aging and describe some approaches to extension of human lifespan. See you next time.